All right, so if anything, this video is a slowdown to see what we have. And with a world that goes so fast, the slowdown's oftentimes welcomed. So let's see what we have when we created Flask make model recipe. And first, the file kind of looks a little bit intimidating. And when I mentally have to, and when I say, okay, I need a new model for this app, there is this mental hurdle for me personally where it's like, oh, I gotta go in, I gotta make a class, oh yeah, I gotta give it a table name, how does that, what's the notation for that again? Oh yes, I need an ID. I definitely need an ID. I know and I like having a created at and an updated at. And there are a couple of methods I usually have on every single model. How do I type that out? And then I always like to have this testing rep thing. So um, in my head, all those thoughts are running through, and it's like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if I just had a command that would build all that out for me? Hey, and you now do. It's Flask make model and the model name. So let's go in. I still have the app up running. Chrome finally caught up. Yay, Chrome. And if we go to recipe, we will end up with a 404 error. Recipes has 404, recipe has a 404. So we don't have anything wired up, so there's nothing to show here except for our hello world. But if we go to VS Code, from that Flask make model recipe, we ended up with this file. And I want to go through this file very carefully. So if you don't have it pulled up, it's located under app, models, and then recipe. The other thing that happened when you did this is recipe got registered with your dunder init file. All right, so a model is not a scary thing. It's simply a Python class, and it extends another class, db.Model. So db.Model gives this class a bit more power if you want, tools if you want. So it has a table name. This is the name that you're going to see in your favorite table. I use Table Plus, your favorite table viewer. So Table Plus is a great tool. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just happen to use them. So, and I have the free trial, so you can I have the free version. So I can see a couple windows at a time. So whatever name you want to name this for your table, that's what you would put here. And this is the notation for defining that. Now, Flask Commands will pluralize, and that's just by convention. And when I say pluralize, it's going to take the word and it's going to do the best it can possibly do at making the plural. So if the plural is some weird thing because the English word plural version is not kind of a standard thing, then you may have to go in here and edit that. And so just something to look out for. And then it comes along, the table is going to come along with 3 columns. Now, you, by all means, will need to add columns to make the data structure actually represent the object you're talking about. There's nothing in here inherently related to a recipe. You have an ID column, you have a created at column, and you have an updated at column. But none of those are really recipe specific things. So a recipe specific thing might be like a name column. Or we've also seen an author ID column. So you will have to add those in, but let's just talk about what it comes with. So the ID column is the primary key on the row. Now, if you're new to web development or databases in general, the primary key is a way for you to go in and say, give me this particular record. And there's no ambiguity as to which record you're getting. So it's very nice. Almost every table I've seen has a primary key. I have seen tables where there wasn't a primary key, and then you ended up with two rows that essentially were identical, but you wanted to delete just one of the two rows instead of both of the two rows, and it made it very challenging to do that. So definitely, I always recommend having a primary key on your tables, some way to distinguish between. Now, there are these pivot tables, so I don't want to get into to the rabbit hole too deep, but nice to have a primary key. Let's leave it at that. So the primary key is just an integer, and it's just going to count. It's going to start 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be a whole number, and they're just going to count up. All right. The created at in the updated at. Those are date times, and they're timestamps is what they are. And there is this really nice default value for you set up. So I always put things in database as UTC time. Even I'm not in UTC time myself, but it doesn't matter. I always think of everything in the database as UTC time, and then if the client needs the time or you need the time in your specific time zone, then I would display it in your time zone. I would have it entered in from your time zone, converted, stored in UTC time, and then the setter would be a conversion, and then the getter would be a conversion into the local time zone, but everything in the database would be stored in UTC time. And so it sets that up. So when you go and create an instance, it will default to what UTC time is now. And when you update an instance, so it's going to, when you create it, it's going to do the same thing on updated at, but when you update an instance and save it to the database, anytime that row is updated, it's going to do the exact same Lambda method, and it's going to get the UTC time for right now and store that. So every time you're updating this row, you're constantly seeing updated at timestamp change, and you don't have to do anything. It just does it behind the scenes for you, which is great. So those are the three columns, and that's how they're set up. Then I have three methods. It looks kind of like two, and then it's like, what's this weird thing? This is a magic method, magic function if you want, or I think I had it right the first time, magic method. So the first method is store in database, and that does exactly what it sounds like. It stores the instance in the database. So you'll create an instance of this model. So you'll create a recipe, and you'll do .store in database, and then that will it will transition it from memory into your database. And then you can also use the same method when you make the update. So you change the name a little bit or something like that, or you change the author, then you can use .store in database, and it will update the row in your database. Now, if you're completely new here, self, what is this self thing? That was always confusing to me. Self is really referencing, I always think of it as referencing the thing before the dot. So you're not actually passing anything into this method, this function. If you think of it in function terms, you're not passing anything in. It is using the thing before the dot as referencing, hey, I have this method called store in database. And delete from database does exactly what you think. It's a destructive function, and it will delete the row in the database. Okay. And then rep. It's a magic method, and when you say print my new recipe that I just created, it's going to go in and it's going to print exactly what's here, what's in the return. And so you don't actually call rep, you just use print. And so it will go through and it will print this. So it's just going to say recipe ID and then give the ID number. And that's it. So that is our model. And we've gone through all the different things. So we're going to all the different components of that model. We're going to actually use this. For me, I really kind of need hands-on to understand something better. So I did a lot of talking. We looked at what we created in the past video, but let's get in and actually build. Let's change it, build something with it, add it to the database, make a migration. I've done this in prior videos, but it's good to have it all in one spot here. So we'll see you in the next video.